In the beautiful city of Seoul, in an office full of workers busy at their desks, a young woman named Bora walked with a carefree attitude while happily humming a tune. Her demeanor contrasted with the work environment, drawing the attention of an older man who, with a friendly smile, commented that Bora had seemed dead for a while. He then added with curiosity if she was feeling better these days and suggested that something very good had probably happened to her. Upon hearing this, Bora smiled and revealed that she had gotten married. It was then that her two friends, surprised by the news, reacted. One of them, the one with glasses, asked if Bora's father had opposed the marriage. Bora, after hearing the question, repeated it to herself, starting to reflect on it. She remembered that, after leaving home, she still visited her father frequently. However, on one particular day, something unexpected happened. Her father slammed the table with force, and with an angry expression, he told them to do whatever they wanted. Bora, upon hearing those words, excitedly asked if they really had his permission to go ahead with their decisions. Filled with enthusiasm, she took Seoko's hand and asked if he had heard the same thing. Without waiting for her father to say anything else, the couple officially sealed their marriage. In the present, Bora reveals to her friends that on that very day, they went to the local office. The two girls remain silent for a few seconds. However, the friend with glasses asks about a new person entering the conversation if it wouldn't be a problem to know that Bora's father had opposed their marriage. Seoko quickly responds that no, and that, on the contrary, he is happy because Bora's father will finally allow them to marry. It is then that the friend with glasses asks about the wedding. Soko responds that they plan to wait until Bora's father is in a better mood. In addition to that, he comments that he understands why they are concerned, but reassures them that he will do everything he can to give Bora a good life. Upon hearing this, one of her friends confesses that, in reality, she is not worried at all. The couple is confused upon hearing this, and the friend with long hair explains that the three of them went to school together, so they have known Bora for a long time. That's why they're not worried, because they know that Bora is a bit selfish and always makes decisions that she knows will make her happy, no matter what others may think. Finally, she adds that although she knows Bora is a bit immature, she asks Seoko to take good care of her, which makes Bora happy. After that lovely night, Bora's friends say goodbye to her, and Seoko comments that she has good friends. Bora confesses that yes, they are like her sisters. So, both return home hand in hand, and the young man comments that, regarding the wedding, they will make sure to throw a big party when Bora's father allows it. He adds that they could go on their honeymoon right now, something that Bora seems to agree with, as she later says they could travel around the world together later, as that would be much better than a 3-day, 4-night trip. Seoko couldn't agree more. He smiles while putting his hand in his pocket and mentions the ring. Bora keeps fantasizing, saying that they will get a ring with a bigger diamond later, and she exclaims that it will be big and shiny. Her husband seems a bit saddened, as he hadn't thought about it and feels that he should have chosen it alongside her. It is then that he kneels, and although he knows it's a bit late, he says, "I know it's a bit late," but he asks her to marry him, but then retracts and thanks her for marrying him. He also promises that he will do everything he can to make her very happy by his side. He adds that when he can afford it, he will make sure she gets a big diamond. She quickly strokes his head, hugs him, and says that it's not necessary, as she likes gold. In that brief moment, she thanks him, while confessing to herself that gold is fine, silver too. Or rather, none of that matters. The truth is, she would be fine even with a rubber ring, because the person who placed the ring on her finger is the only thing that matters to her. So time passes, and one day, while they were eating peacefully, Bora suddenly felt something and ran out to vomit. At the hospital, the doctor reveals that she is pregnant. They both remain silent for a few seconds, then look at each other and rejoice, as suddenly they received the happiest news they could get. The promise that he would do everything possible to make her very happy was being fulfilled. Days went by, and they always shared lovely moments of affection and love. They always fed off each other's company. Bora reflects that, during the time they were together, she can swear she was the happiest person in the world. So, on a sunny day, while Bora washed the dishes to the rhythm of a lovely song, she began to hear the latest news. They report that there has been a chain collision of 14 vehicles due to a rock slide in the city of Paju. Then they connect with the reporter on the scene of the accident. At that moment, she sees a familiar car, and it is revealed that Sayoko was involved in the accident. Thus, he never knew that the baby she was carrying was actually twins. But before all that happened, let's go back to Sayoko at his house. With his head resting on Bora's belly, he mentions that he felt something a moment ago. His wife confirms their baby has moved. Sayoko gets excited since he felt a pretty strong kick. Then he turns to his little one and says that his dad will be back soon. Before leaving, Bora calls him. He looks at her and his wife asks him to drive carefully. Sayoko watches her and gives her a faint smile. It's then, on a sunny day, that traffic comes to a halt. While driving, Sayoko notices a group of students, which makes him recall his high school days. He reflects on the question about hopes and dreams for the future, something that he now feels he also has. He confesses to himself that he wants to hug his son when he's born. He longs for the moment when the three of them sit together at the table. He also dreams of taking his son to school and when he grows up, seeing him explore the world while he and Bora remain together. He imagines time passing when both their hair turns white and their faces are filled with wrinkles. Because he knows she will always be the most beautiful to him. Back on the highway in the afternoon, Sayoko continues driving carefully until the cable holding the rocks breaks. This causes several stones to fall onto the road. Sayoko quickly turns the wheel, but a rock heads straight towards him. After that, everything goes dark. It's revealed that several cars have collided, and Sayoko's is no exception. Luckily, he manages to get out of the vehicle. A bit nervous, he starts looking around, surveying the disaster that was the accident. It's then that he sees someone unconscious inside a car. He rushes over. It's a woman, and he tries to wake her by tapping on the window. However, there's no response, so he decides to break the glass to pull her out of the vehicle. That's when he notices something. In the back seat, there's a girl, also unconscious. Sayoko quickly pulls the woman out of the car. As he lays her on the sidewalk, she grabs his clothing, grabbing his attention. With a weak voice, she tells him that her daughter is in the back seat and pleads for his help. Sayoko turns towards the vehicle, which starts releasing smoke. Upon seeing this, the only thing that crosses his mind is the image of his wife. In that moment, he tells the woman to stay there, assuring her that he will bring. We then transition to another scene while Sayoko speaks. My greatest dream is to grow old with you, Bora, my love. Have I ever told you that I love you with all my heart? Bora is standing in front of her deceased husband's body. She looks at the situation without reacting, but declares that the death of her beloved Soko is a moment she doesn't clearly remember. At the funeral, only a few people showed up, as Sayoko had no relatives, so his father took care of everything. Bora still hasn't reacted, even more so when she sees Sayoko being cremated and realizes that he's no longer with her. Her friends were with Bora, supporting her during this difficult time. They were crying a lot, but strangely, Bora didn't cry. Everything that was happening felt so unreal to her, which caused her to collapse and faint in front of her loved ones. That's when she began to wake up. Syoko asks her if she slept well, and Bora looks at him, somewhat confused. They are both in the taxi, and he comments that she must have been a bit tired. Bora looks outside and, after a few seconds, says that she hasn't slept for several nights. Her husband understands and immediately apologizes. She asks him why he says that, and he responds that he couldn't keep his promise. They both stay silent for a few seconds until Bora breaks the silence. She calls him lovingly and, taking his hand, says that it's okay. She reveals that she has been very happy and that he can rest in peace. She also expresses that she loves him with all her heart. That last goodbye makes Syoko shed many tears while Bora smiles. Later, he begins to wake up in the real world, crying and thinking about the promise he made. When he wakes up, he sees his loved ones by his side, somewhat worried. They are glad that he's awake, and one of his friends calls the nurse to inform her that he's regained consciousness. It's then that Bora murmurs something, but her father can't understand what she's saying, questioning what she said. Finally, she reveals that what she said was a request, asking for food. This leaves her family speechless, but they eventually agree to her request. After that, Bora begins devouring the food, eating without saying a word. In that silent atmosphere, her father, a little overwhelmed, starts talking about a man who runs a foundation for children. She listens attentively and then asks what this has to do with the situation. Her father then comments if they've told her that she's having twins and asks how she plans to handle 2 children on her own. Bora quickly asks what he's talking about. It's then that he says that the babies must be put up for adoption. So, unfortunately, the memories of that day remain fresh in her mind. And for the first time in her peaceful life, Bora became furious with her father, who had worked hard all his life to raise her. She remembers cursing and even throwing food at her father, as well as at her friends, who were only concerned about her health. She wondered why she was so angry. Then, she remembers it was because she had promised Sayoko that no matter what happened, no matter how tough it got, she would protect her babies, who were about to be born, even if it meant sacrificing her entire life. After that, Bora recalls that she had seen many recurring scenes in television dramas, scenes that depicted a seemingly happy process: pregnancy, childbirth, and raising a child. However, all of that turned out to be a cruel lie. Bora confesses that, although she had an enormous hunger, she suffered from severe morning sickness that made it very hard for her to eat. She was also always bloated, and digestion became a torment. Each meal was driving her crazy because her body wasn't responding as it used to. She confesses that her entire body was swollen. The blood wasn't circulating properly, and she found it extremely difficult to walk. Moreover, she had gained 20 kilograms, which made her feel more uncomfortable with each passing day. Looking at her reflection in the glass, she felt even more uncomfortable and couldn't help but wonder if her body would ever return to the shape it had been before. At work, the team leader mentioned that the next item on the agenda was to discuss the budget plan for the week. But before he could start the meeting, Bora interrupted, feeling an urgent need to go to the bathroom. The man asked her if she had any input to offer, but in reality, all she wanted was to go to the bathroom. He quickly understood and gave her permission. However, as she was leaving, one of her colleagues murmured, wondering how many times she had already gone to the bathroom that day. Bora, on her part, thought that the pressure on her bladder made her need to urinate frequently. But sometimes, she made mistakes because it was just hard to control. That night, as she returned home, she felt constant pangs of pain throughout her body. She complained of the back pain, which seemed never to subside. In addition, the headache added to the general discomfort, making her feel even more exhausted. She wondered if this was something that happened to all pregnant women. At that moment, she looked at her room, empty and messy. She reflected that if Seoko were there with her, maybe everything she was going through would be a little more bearable. In bed, she remembered when he had told her that they couldn't go on their honeymoon yet, that he would be working much more from then on, and that in the future, they would move to a better house. But all that happiness she had felt before went away with him, leaving her alone in that room. The next day at work, her boss shouted at her, asking what he should do if she made such a grave mistake, and that by now, she should have gotten rid of the rookie label. Bora, embarrassed, apologized, but he responded that she didn't need to say that he already knew her situation. However, he explained that her work was causing others to have much more to do, which resulted in a burden that was hard for everyone to bear. Then, he asked her why she didn't take maternity leave. Bora, with silent determination, could only say that she would try even harder. Her boss, resigned, commented that there was no turning back, that the deed was done, and asked her to return to work as soon as possible. It was then that Bora remembered that in 1987, a maternity leave system had been established. However, those leaves were unpaid, and she couldn't afford that. No matter how difficult everything was, she had to earn as much money as she could because she would need it in the future. Because now she was the head of the family. While walking, she suddenly stopped, realizing something important. It was March 15, 1997. And a long day had begun. It is after this that an ambulance rushes to the hospital. Inside was Bora, who assumed the contractions were normal, as they were much more bearable than she had imagined. She admits they are tolerable, but despite this, she feels extremely nervous. She wonders why this is happening now, when there's still a month left until the birth. Furthermore, she can't stop thinking about the blood she had seen, which left her very worried and also terrified. Upon arriving at the hospital, the medical team quickly unloads her from the ambulance and, without wasting time, calls the doctor. At that moment, they inform him that the mother's name is Yu Bora. The doctor, upon receiving the call, confirms he is aware of the situation and is ready to take her to the delivery room immediately. Once there, several devices are connected to Bora to monitor her vital signs and those of her babies. As the doctor observes the monitors, he notices something that makes him stop, causing Bora to anxiously ask if her babies are okay. The doctor carefully evaluates the situation and, relieved, tells her that her babies are fine, which temporarily reassures her. However, the doctor continues explaining that one of the babies has ruptured the amniotic sac, so it will be necessary to administer a labor inducer to deliver the babies immediately. This comment makes her a little nervous, as the suggestion that her babies be born today takes her by surprise. The doctor calmly confirms that this is the case. He then adds that there is a risk of prolapse or infection of the umbilical cord, so the team is preparing to act immediately. Upon hearing this, Bora wonders if what is happening is considered premature labor. The doctor explains that although the labor has come a bit early, with a 37-week pregnancy, it is not considered premature. This explanation provides her with some comfort, but she still holds the anxiety in her chest as she prepares for the upcoming procedure. Moreover, he asks her not to worry too much, to which she nods as he administers the medication. A few minutes pass, and he asks how she is feeling about the labor pains. Bora responds that she hasn't felt any pain so far. Upon hearing this, he comments that it's time to administer an enema, which makes her a bit nervous. He explains that during labor she might end up defecating, so it's better to empty her intestines. Bora is speechless, surprised by the explanation. After some time, he returns and asks if she still doesn't feel any pain. Bora replies that no, she still hasn't experienced any. In response, the doctor asks the nurse to inject the labor inducer and to check in 30 minutes. Half an hour passes, and the doctor returns, asking if she feels any pain. Bora confirms she still doesn't feel anything, and the doctor orders that another 48 milliliters of the medication be administered, asking for another check in 30 minutes. Once that time passes, Bora reports feeling a discomfort similar to menstrual pain, though she isn't sure if it's actual labor pain. In response, the doctor decides to administer another 75 milliliters, assuring her that he will return in another 30 minutes. Bora nods, and the doctor reassures her that there is no need to worry, as everything happening is completely normal. She confesses that she is just a bit nervous, as it feels strange to wait for the pain to begin. He explains that they aren't waiting for the pain but for the babies, and asks her to be patient. She affirms this with a slight nod. After some time, Bora starts to feel the contractions more intensely. She expresses that it hurts terribly, feeling her stomach so tight that it's hard to breathe, as if she can't take in enough air to calm the pain that consumes her. The doctor, calmly, tells her she's doing great and asks her to breathe deeply so that she can push with more strength. Bora, with effort, follows his instructions, but as she does so, she asks between gasps if she is already giving birth. He, with a serene look, responds that not yet, revealing that her cervix has only dilated 1 centimeter, so she'll need to wait a little longer. A little nervous, she asks how much longer she has to dilate, and the doctor explains that she must reach 10 centimeters before being able to give birth. Bora can only think that, although the pain is unbearable at that moment, there is still a long way to go. At that instant, the doctor tells her he will administer another injection to relieve the pain and asks her to keep breathing that way, so that But Bora, torn by the suffering, screams that she can't take it anymore, feeling like she's dying. Then, between sobs, she pleads for a cesarean, begging them to do it right now, without waiting any longer. With tears in her eyes, she informs the doctor that the pain is unbearable, that she feels like she is going to die, and that she can't leave her babies alone, since only she has. The doctor looks at her intently, trying to convey calmness, and promises her that both she and the babies will be perfectly fine. But deep down, Bora can only think that for now, the only thing she feels is that she's on the brink of death. It was after a long time that Bora's cervix had dilated 10 centimeters. It was then when she revealed that, if all the pains she had felt throughout her life were put together, none of them would be worse than the suffering she was experiencing at that exact moment. There came a point when she no longer recognized the person she once was. The agony had transformed her so much that her body and mind seemed on the brink of collapse. There were moments when, consumed by despair, she cursed everyone around her while screaming for a cesarean, her last resort to escape the unbearable pain. The doctor, for his part, could only say that she was doing well, insisting that she just needed to push a little more. However, Bora knew she had no strength left. She also remembers that in her moments of greatest anguish, she prayed fervently. She begged God for a cesarean, for anything that would relieve her suffering. But the doctor kept repeating that she had to continue, that she was almost there. Finally, after so much suffering, Bora collapsed. But in that moment, she began to hear the cry of a baby. The nurse, in a calm, informed her that it was a healthy and beautiful boy. With a mix of exhaustion and relief, Bora looked at her little newborn son crying in the nurse's arms. It was then when the doctor, with a proud expression, told her she had done a great job. Then he mentioned that there was still the matter of seeing her daughter, a reminder that the journey was not over yet. Bora confessed that, although she felt as though she had just crossed the threshold of death, she managed to gather strength from within. It was at that exact moment when the doctor told her she had to prepare to fight again. Bora nodded, knowing she had to continue. Thus, 5 minutes later, despite everything that had happened, she did it once again. However, at that exact moment, the doctor shouted to call the pediatrician, starting to hurry the medical team. Bora, seeing the doctor's reaction, was filled with uncertainty and, worried, asked what was happening. And what was he doing? She confesses that she heard a faint cry, a sound completely different from her brother's cry. Furthermore, she felt that the doctor's voice trembled when it had been strong and firm until that moment. The doctor asked her to wait a moment. This made Bora extremely nervous. At that moment, her world went completely black until she started hearing a cry. The cry that illuminated her entire world. It was then that Bora held her 2 precious babies in her hands. Everything was fine, and that was something Bora repeated to them like a silent promise. The doctor reported that the boy had been born on March 15, 1997, at 11:06 p.m., and 5 minutes later, the girl was born, already on March 16th. Bora told her babies, as if making a promise to herself, that she would make sure everything would be fine. Just at that moment, the doctor collapsed to the floor and said that, for a minute, they would celebrate their birthdays on different days, thanking the mother for all her effort. It was that day, the first since Soko had gone, that Bora was able to smile sincerely. Y con eso llegamos al final del capítulo de esta semana. Si te has quedado hasta el final, me encantaría saber qué opinas sobre este capítulo en los comentarios. No olvides darle like y suscribirte para que nuestra comunidad siga creciendo y podamos llegar a más fans como tú. Nos vemos en el próximo video. Mientras tanto, si eres de un futuro cercano, te dejo el siguiente capítulo y un cómic que seguro te gustará. Gracias por ser parte de esta aventura.